Tyler Bennett had been running the coffee shop on Frontier Station 7 for almost 2 years now, and honestly, most days he wondered why he even bothered. The rent was killing him, half his equipment was held together with duct tape and prayers, and his customer count had dropped so low he could name every regular by their favorite drink order. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed, though he didn't know it yet. The station was quieter than usual, just a few truckers passing through and a couple of maintenance workers grabbing their afternoon caffeine fix. Tyler was behind the counter, scrolling through bills on his tablet and trying not to panic about the eviction notice he'd received that morning. That's when he noticed the alien in the corner booth. The creature was impossible to miss, really. He stood at least 8 feet tall, with scales that shimmered like oil on water, shifting between deep purple and midnight blue depending on how the light hit them. 2 elegant horns curved back from his skull, and his eyes were this striking golden color that seemed to glow faintly in the dim lighting of the shop. He wore a traveler's cloak that had seen better days, all worn and patched at the edges. But what really caught Tyler's attention wasn't how the alien looked. It was how he sat. Hunched over, shoulders curved inward, staring down at a cup of coffee that had to be ice cold by now. Tyler had seen that posture before, in the mirror on his worst days. That was the look of someone carrying weight they didn't know how to put down. The alien had been sitting there for 3 hours. Tyler knew because he'd been watching the clock, waiting for closing time. Most customers came and went within 30 minutes, maybe an hour if they were working on something. But this guy just sat there, occasionally lifting the cup to his lips before setting it back down without drinking. Tyler made a decision. He grabbed the coffee pot, took a deep breath and walked over. The alien's head snapped up as Tyler approached, those golden eyes widening in what looked like surprise. Up close, Tyler could see more details. The scales weren't just purple and blue, they had these tiny flecks of silver that caught the light. The alien's claws, resting on the table, were neatly filed down, like he was trying not to be threatening. "Hey there," Tyler said, keeping his voice friendly and casual. "That coffee's gotta be colder than a spacer's heart by now. Want me to pour you a fresh one? No charge." The alien stared at him for a long moment, and Tyler started to wonder if he'd made a mistake. Maybe this species didn't do refills. Maybe offering free stuff was an insult in his culture. Tyler had put his foot in his mouth with alien customs before. But then the alien spoke, his voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. "You would do this? For a stranger?" "Sure, why not?" Tyler shrugged and poured the fresh coffee anyway. "You look like you're having a rough day. We've all been there." He stuck out his hand. "I'm Tyler, by the way. Tyler Bennett." The alien looked at Tyler's hand like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. Then very carefully he reached out and shook it. His grip was gentle, controlled, like he was afraid of hurting Tyler. "You may call me Val," he said softly. Tyler slid into the opposite side of the booth without asking. Something told him this guy needed someone to talk to, and Tyler had nothing better to do. The bills would still be there later. "So Val, what brings you to this corner of nowhere?" Tyler asked. Val wrapped his clawed hands around the warm cup, and Tyler saw his shoulders relax just a fraction. "Running, perhaps? Or searching? I am not certain which anymore." "Yeah, I get that feeling." Tyler leaned back. "Sometimes it's hard to tell if you're running away from something or toward something else, you know?" They started talking and it was weird how easy it felt. Val spoke carefully, choosing his words like each one mattered. He talked about family troubles, about expectations he couldn't meet, about responsibilities that felt too heavy to carry. He never gave specifics, always kept things vague, but Tyler understood the emotion behind it. Tyler found himself opening up too, telling the stranger about the coffee shop, about the eviction notice, about how he'd dreamed of running his own business since he was a kid but was pretty sure he was going to fail spectacularly. He told Vel about his ex-girlfriend who'd left because she was tired of being broke, about his mom who kept asking when he was going to get a real job, about lying awake at night wondering if he was just fooling himself. "What do you think makes someone worthy of responsibility?" Vel asked suddenly, his golden eyes intense and focused. "What separates those who should lead from those who should follow?" Tyler laughed and ran a hand through his hair. "Man, you're asking the wrong guy. I can barely keep this place running. I'm pretty sure I'm the poster child for irresponsible life choices." "Perhaps that makes you exactly the right person to ask," Vel said quietly. "Those who seek power rarely question whether they deserve it. But you, Tyler Bennett, you doubt yourself at every turn, yet you continue trying. You see me, a stranger, sitting alone, and your first instinct is kindness. No calculation. No expectation of reward. Just compassion." Tyler didn't know what to say to that, so he just poured them both more coffee. They talked for another hour about everything and nothing. Vel asked questions about humans, about Earth culture, about what Tyler believed made life worth living. Tyler had never felt so heard before, like every word he said actually mattered to someone. When Vel finally stood to leave, the station's lights were dimming for night cycle. He placed one large, scaled hand on Tyler's shoulder, the touch surprisingly warm. "Thank you, Tyler Bennett," Vel said, and there was something in his voice that made it sound like more than just thanks for coffee. "You have given me something precious today. More precious than you can possibly know." Tyler walked him to the door and watched as Vel headed toward the docking bays. That's when Tyler noticed the ship. It was sleek and elegant, with lines that suggested both speed and luxury. The hull had this iridescent quality that probably cost more than Tyler would make in 10 lifetimes. That was not the ship of someone down on their luck. Tyler stood in the doorway for a long moment, frowning. Something didn't add up. But then again, nothing in his life made sense lately, so why should this? He went back inside, cleaned up the cups, and locked the door. Just another weird day on Frontier Station 7. He had no idea he'd just changed the fate of the galaxy. 3 weeks passed, and Tyler had almost forgotten about the strange alien in the worn cloak. Almost, but not quite. There was something about that conversation that stuck with him, replaying in his head during the quiet moments between customers. He was checking his account balance one morning, preparing himself for the usual depressing numbers, when his tablet screen made him do a double take. Then a triple take. Then he refreshed the page 4 times because surely this had to be a glitch. 50,000 credits. Just sitting there. An anonymous deposit with no message, no explanation, no sender information. Tyler's hands started shaking. 50,000 credits was enough to pay off his back rent, fix the broken espresso machine, replace the flickering lights, and still have enough left over to actually breathe for a few months. He immediately called the bank, convinced it was an error and they'd take it back. "No error, Mr. Bennett," the automated system cheerfully informed him. "The deposit is legitimate and cleared. Have a wonderful day." Tyler sat there staring at his tablet for 20 minutes straight. Who would do this? He didn't have rich relatives. He didn't have any relatives who even liked him that much. His ex definitely wouldn't send him money. None of his friends had that kind of cash lying around. The mystery deepened over the next few days. Aliens started showing up at his shop, species he'd never seen before on the station. They'd come in, look around with these evaluating expressions, and then order coffee. Lots of coffee. A group of 4-armed traders from the Belker system became regulars, always taking the table by the window. A family of floating jellyfish-like creatures started coming in every morning, communicating through color changes that Tyler slowly learned meant the usual please. Even some of the more intimidating species, the ones with too many teeth and armor plating, started dropping by. "How did you hear about my place?" Tyler asked one of the Belker traders, a friendly guy who'd introduced himself as Keswick. Keswick's 4 hands gestured expressively as he spoke. "A friend told us about the human hospitality here. Said this was the one place on the station where everyone was treated with genuine respect, not just tolerance. We had to see for ourselves." "What friend?" Tyler pressed. Keswick just smiled mysteriously. "Someone important who values kindness over status. He said we should support establishments that understand what really matters." The coffee shop went from nearly bankrupt to thriving in less than a month. Tyler had to hire 2 employees just to keep up with demand. He finally fixed all the equipment, replaced the worn-out furniture, and even added some decorations to make the place feel more welcoming. For the first time since opening, he actually felt like maybe he hadn't made a horrible mistake with his life. But weird things were happening beyond his little coffee shop too. Tyler started noticing news reports that didn't make sense. The Galactic news networks, which usually played in the background while he worked, suddenly couldn't stop talking about Emperor Velkorath of the Vasher Empire. Apparently, the guy had disappeared for months and everyone thought he'd given up his throne. Now he was back and he was doing things that had the entire galaxy confused. "The Emperor has proposed unprecedented reforms," one news anchor announced, her holographic form flickering above Tyler's counter display. "He's granting younger species, including humans, full trading rights and political representation in the Galactic Council. Noble houses are calling it madness." Tyler wiped down a table, only half listening. Politics had never been his thing. He had enough trouble managing his own life without worrying about galactic empires. Another report showed the Emperor visiting human colonies personally, something apparently no emperor had done in centuries. "Emperor Velkorath continues his tour of primitive, developing worlds," the anchor corrected herself quickly. "He spent 3 hours yesterday at a human agricultural colony, speaking with farmers about their concerns. Political analysts are baffled by this behavior. Tyler glanced up at the screen and froze mid-wipe. The camera had zoomed in on the emperor's face for a close-up. Those scales, shimmering purple and blue. Those golden eyes. The elegant horns curving back from his skull. The cloth dropped from Tyler's hand. His mouth went dry. His heart started pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "No," he whispered. "No way. That's not possible." But it was. The alien he'd served coffee to, the guy in the worn cloak who'd sat in his corner booth looking lost and sad, was the emperor of the Vasher Empire. An empire that controlled 40,000 star systems. An empire that could crush humanity like an insect if it wanted to. Tyler had given him free coffee. He'd sat down and complained about his bills. He'd told an emperor that he was terrible at life choices. "Oh no," Tyler said out loud, earning a curious look from a nearby customer. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." Everything suddenly made sense. The anonymous donation. The sudden flood of alien customers. They weren't random. Vel had done this. The emperor had saved his coffee shop. But why? Tyler had just been nice to him. That's it. That's all he'd done. Given him a refill and listened to him talk. That couldn't possibly be worth this kind of attention. Tyler pulled up more news articles, reading frantically. The emperor wasn't just helping Tyler's shop. He was changing policies across the entire galaxy, all of them benefiting humanity and other younger species. He was standing up to ancient noble houses, pushing back against traditions that had existed for thousands of years. The emperor claims that age does not determine wisdom, one political commentator said, clearly disapproving. He argues that younger species bring fresh perspectives that the galaxy desperately needs. His critics say he's been compromised, possibly even manipulated. Tyler's stomach dropped. Manipulated. They thought someone had gotten to the emperor. And if people started investigating who the emperor had been in contact with, they'd find Tyler eventually. This was bad. This was really, really bad. Tyler spent the rest of the day in a daze, going through the motions of making coffee while his mind raced. What was he supposed to do? Contact the emperor? Pretend nothing happened? Leave the station and change his identity? He was still wrestling with these questions when closing time came around. Tyler was locking the front door when he noticed a familiar ship landing at the docking bay across the plaza. That sleek, expensive vessel that shouldn't belong to a wandering stranger. The door opened and Vel stepped out. This time he wasn't alone. Four absolutely massive guards in formal armor flanked him, their eyes scanning the area with professional paranoia. They weren't even trying to be subtle about it. Vel looked directly at Tyler's shop. Even from this distance, Tyler could see those golden eyes lock onto him. Tyler's hand was still on the door lock. He could pretend the shop was closed. He could hide in the back. He could run. Instead, because apparently he was an idiot who never learned, Tyler unlocked the door and turned the lights back on. If an emperor wanted to talk to him, running probably wouldn't help anyway. He started making coffee with shaking hands. Something told him this conversation was going to be very different from their first one. The door chimed. Tyler didn't turn around. "So," he said, his voice only slightly unsteady. "Emperor, huh? That's a pretty big detail to leave out." Behind him, Velkorath, Emperor of the Vasher Empire and ruler of 40,000 star systems, let out a very heavy sigh. Tyler kept his back turned, focusing on the coffee machine like it was the most important thing in the universe. His hands were shaking slightly as he measured out the grounds, but he tried to keep his voice steady. "Your guards can wait outside," Tyler said. "They're making my shop look like a military checkpoint." There was a pause, then Vel's deep voice rumbled softly. "Wait outside. Keep the perimeter secure but give us privacy." Tyler heard the heavy footsteps retreat and the door chime again as the guards left. Only then did he turn around, 2 cups of fresh coffee in hand. Vel stood in the middle of the shop, looking somehow smaller than he had 3 weeks ago, despite his massive frame. "You knew," Vel said quietly. "When did you figure it out?" "About an hour ago. Saw you on the news." Tyler set both cups on the counter, not trusting himself to walk them over without spilling. "Want to tell me why the ruler of half the galaxy was sitting in my crappy coffee shop pretending to be a nobody?" Vel moved to the counter slowly, like he was approaching a spooked animal. He picked up one of the cups and wrapped his clawed hands around it in that same gentle way he had before. "Because I needed to be a nobody. Just for a little while." "Yeah, well, congratulations. You fooled me completely." Tyler heard the bitterness in his own voice and hated it. He wasn't angry, not really. He was scared and confused and feeling incredibly stupid. So what now? Was this all some kind of test? See how the primitive humans treat strangers. No. Vel's voice was sharp, almost hurt. No, Tyler, it was nothing like that. Then what was it? Tyler finally looked up, meeting those golden eyes. Because I'm having a really hard time understanding why an emperor would lie to some random coffee shop owner. Vel was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice carried a weight that made Tyler's anger deflate. 5 years ago there was a civil war in my empire. It lasted 18 months. 12 systems burned. 4 billion people died. He paused, his claws clicking against the ceramic cup. My mate died. My 3 oldest children died. All because houses under my rule decided they wanted power more than peace. Tyler felt his throat tighten. He didn't know what to say to that. I won the war, Vel continued. Crushed the rebellion completely. But victory felt like ash in my mouth. I looked at what I had done, the orders I had given, the lives I had spent like currency, and I realized I had become exactly what my enemies claimed I was. A tyrant. A monster who valued power over people. Vel took a sip of coffee, and Tyler noticed his hands were shaking slightly. So I abdicated. Temporarily. I told my council I needed time to mourn, but truly I was running. I took a small ship, wore common clothes, and wandered the galaxy trying to understand where I had gone wrong. Trying to figure out if I even deserved to rule anymore. And you ended up here, Tyler said softly. I ended up in many places. I spoke to hundreds of beings across dozens of worlds. Merchants, soldiers, farmers, criminals, priests. Do you know what I learned? Vel's golden eyes fixed on Tyler. Almost everyone treated me differently the moment they sensed power. They either feared me, tried to manipulate me, or deferred to me without question. No one saw me. They saw what I could do for them or what I could do to them. Tyler leaned against the counter, starting to understand. Then I walked into this shop, Vel continued. I sat in that corner booth feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. I was ready to give up completely. Return home and hand my crown to someone else, anyone else, because clearly I was not worthy of it. He gestured at Tyler with one clawed hand. And you, Tyler Bennett, you looked at me and saw a person having a bad day. Not an opportunity. Not a threat. Just someone who needed kindness. I gave you coffee, Tyler said weakly. That's it. Just coffee and conversation. You gave me hope, Vel corrected. You reminded me why leadership matters. Not because of power or bloodlines or ancient traditions, but because every being, from the highest emperor to the lowest beggar, has value, has worth, deserves to be seen. He set down his cup. Would you have spoken to me so honestly if you knew who I was? Tyler opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. He thought about it, really thought about it. No, he admitted finally. I probably would have been too scared to even talk to you. Or I would have been super fake and polite, trying not to mess up. Exactly. Vel's expression softened. That is why I did not tell you. I needed someone to be real with me. Just once. They stood in silence for a moment. Tyler's mind was racing, trying to process everything. Finally, he asked the question that had been bugging him. The money. The customers. That was all you? Yes. You saved my shop, my dream, and you helped me when I needed it. I wanted to return the favor. You did more than return a favor, Tyler said, feeling overwhelmed. You basically gave me a new life. You gave me one first. Vel reached into his cloak and pulled out a small data pad. Which brings me to why I am here. I want you to come to the imperial capital. Serve as my advisor on human affairs. Help me build bridges between our peoples. Tyler stared at the data pad like it might explode. You want me to what now? Be my advisor. Your species is new to the galactic stage. You need representation, someone who understands both humanity and the complex politics of the greater galaxy. I can think of no one better. Are you insane? Tyler's voice cracked. I run a coffee shop. A coffee shop that was failing until you bailed me out. I don't know anything about politics or diplomacy or whatever advisors are supposed to know. You know how to see people as people, Vel said calmly. You know how to listen without judgment. You know how to show kindness without expecting reward. These are the skills that matter. Tyler laughed, but it came out slightly hysterical. Those aren't skills, those are just basic human decency. Which is precisely why they are so valuable, Vel replied. The galaxy has plenty of politicians and strategists. It has very few people who remember that behind every decision are actual lives. Actual beings who matter. Tyler ran his hands through his hair, feeling like the world was tilting sideways. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Is it? Or is it just unexpected? Both. Definitely both. Tyler paced back and forth behind the counter. I appreciate the offer, I really do, but I can't. This shop, this place, it's my dream. I've worked for years to build it. I'm finally making it work. I can't just abandon it to go play politics with emperors and nobles who would eat me alive. Vel was quiet for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. It was a sharp-toothed smile, but there was warmth in it. I understand. And I respect your decision. Tyler stopped pacing. You do? Of course. Forcing you to leave your dream would make me no better than the tyrants I fought against. Vel picked up his coffee cup again. But I would like to ask a different favor if I may. What kind of favor? Tyler asked suspiciously. Let me visit. Regularly. Bring me problems and questions about humanity. Help me understand your people, not through diplomatic briefings and formal reports, but through real experience. Vel's golden eyes were earnest. If humans are to thrive in the galactic community, I need to see them as they truly are. You can show me that. Tyler thought about it. That didn't sound so bad, actually. Just visits? Coffee and conversation like before? Exactly like before. Though perhaps with more honesty this time. A smile tugged at Tyler's lips despite everything. Yeah, honesty would be good. No more secret emperor stuff. Agreed. Vel extended his hand. Friends? Tyler looked at that massive scaled hand. This was absolutely insane. He was making friends with an emperor. An actual emperor who ruled more star systems than Tyler could count. His mom would never believe this. Nobody would believe this. But looking into Vel's eyes, Tyler saw the same loneliness he'd seen 3 weeks ago. The same need for genuine connection. And really, wasn't that what everyone wanted? To be seen and understood? Tyler shook his hand firmly. Friends? But you're paying for your coffee from now on. You can definitely afford it. Vel's laugh was like thunder, warm and genuine. Some traditions are worth keeping, Tyler Bennett. Over the next 4 months, Tyler's life became something he never could have imagined. Vel kept his promise and visited regularly, sometimes with advance notice through encrypted official channels that made Tyler feel like a spy, and sometimes just showing up at closing time like any other customer. The visits without warning were Tyler's favorites. Vel would walk in wearing that same worn cloak, trying to look inconspicuous despite being an 8-foot-tall dragon emperor. His guards had learned to blend in better, pretending to be regular customers scattered around the shop, though Tyler could always spot them by the way their eyes never stopped scanning for threats. You know, Tyler said one evening while wiping down tables, your guards are getting better at the whole undercover thing, but that guy in the corner has been nursing the same cup of coffee for 2 hours without taking a single sip. Dead giveaway. Vel glanced over and sighed. Captain Thresh takes his duties very seriously. Perhaps too seriously. You think? Tyler grinned. He looks like he's about to tackle anyone who gets within 5 feet of you. Their friendship grew in unexpected ways. Tyler introduced Vel to human culture with the enthusiasm of someone who'd finally found an appreciative audience. They watched terrible action movies from Earth, the kind with impossible physics and explosions every 30 seconds. Vel was fascinated by humanity's obsession with dramatic heroics. Why does the protagonist always walk away from explosions without looking back? Vel asked during one particularly ridiculous film. Surely he should verify the threat is neutralized? Because it looks cool, Tyler explained, tossing popcorn into his mouth. That's literally the only reason. Style over substance. Fascinating. In Vasher culture, turning your back on a potential threat is considered foolish, not heroic. Yeah, well, humans are pretty good at doing foolish things and calling them heroic. It's kind of our specialty. Tyler took Vel to the station's night market, where vendors from a dozen species sold everything from exotic foods to questionable electronics. Vel insisted on trying every human food Tyler recommended, even the sketchy stuff from carts that probably violated multiple health codes. This taco is structurally unsound, Vel observed as the contents spilled down his claws. Yet somehow delicious. That's tacos for you. Delicious disasters. Tyler handed him a napkin, or rather a whole stack of napkins. You've got salsa on your chin. Well, where your chin would be if you were human. In return, Vel showed Tyler wonders beyond imagination. He brought hollow projectors that displayed nebulae where stars were being born, swirling clouds of gas and light that took Tyler's breath away. He told stories of ancient civilizations that rose and fell before humanity even existed, their ruins still floating in dead space as monuments to forgotten glory. This species, the Kethran, they built ships the size of moons, Vel explained, manipulating the hologram to show massive structures. They believed they could escape entropy itself by building large enough. They were wrong, obviously, but their ambition was admirable. What happened to them? Tyler asked, mesmerized by the images. They vanished 12,000 years ago. No one knows why. Their ships remain, empty and silent, orbiting dead stars. Vel's voice grew soft. The galaxy is full of ghosts, Tyler. Reminders that nothing, no matter how powerful, lasts forever. But their friendship wasn't just cultural exchange and philosophical discussions. Vel brought real problems, asking Tyler's opinion on matters of galactic importance. At first, Tyler felt ridiculous giving advice to someone who ruled billions of beings, but Vel insisted his perspective was valuable precisely because it was so different. The Corvin sector wants independence, Vel said one night, spreading star charts across Tyler's counter after closing. They claim I neglect their needs in favor of the core worlds. My advisors recommend a show of force to discourage rebellion. Tyler studied the charts, feeling way out of his depth. What do you think you should do? I think my advisors are wrong. Force will only breed resentment. But I am tired, Tyler. Sometimes the easier path seems appealing even when I know it is wrong. Then don't take it. Tyler poured them both coffee. You came all the way here to ask my opinion, which means you already know what you want to do. You just need someone to tell you it's okay to do it. Vel looked at him for a long moment. You see through me too easily. That's what friends are for. So what's the hard choice here? Go to the Corvin sector myself. Listen to their grievances. Actually address their concerns instead of dismissing them. Vel's claws tapped against the counter. It will take time I do not have. It will require compromises that will anger the core worlds. But it is the right thing to do. Then do the right thing, Tyler said simply. Isn't that what you came back for? To be a better emperor? These conversations became regular occurrences. Tyler found himself accidentally advising an emperor on interstellar policy while making lattes, which was absolutely insane when he stopped to think about it. So he mostly tried not to think about it. But not everyone was happy about their friendship. The warning signs started small. Angry messages on the galactic nets claiming the emperor had been compromised by human influence. Protests from noble houses demanding he stop elevating primitives above their station. Political commentators questioning whether Vel was mentally fit to rule. Tyler tried to ignore it, but Vel grew increasingly tense with each visit. His guards multiplied, going from 4 to 8 to 12. They stopped even pretending to be subtle, forming an obvious perimeter around the coffee shop whenever Vel was present. Maybe you should stop coming, Tyler suggested one evening, watching the guards through the window. This is getting out of hand. People are talking and not in a good way. Let them talk, Vel said, but Tyler could hear the strain in his voice. I will not let fear dictate who I can befriend. It's not just talk though, is it? These noble houses, they actually have power. They could make things difficult for you. They could try. Vel's eyes glowed slightly brighter, a sign Tyler had learned meant he was angry. But I did not survive a civil war only to bow to political pressure from pompous aristocrats who have never known true hardship. Tyler was about to respond when the lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in immediately, bathing everything in red. The guards burst through the door, weapons drawn, surrounding Vel in a protective formation. Stay down. Captain Thresh barked at Tyler. Then Tyler heard it. A high-pitched whine building in intensity. He'd heard that sound before in movies and news reports. Someone was charging a plasma weapon. Everything happened in slow motion. Tyler saw the flash through the window, saw the bolt of superheated energy streaking toward them. Saw Captain Thresh throw himself in front of Vel. Saw the bolt hit the wall beside Tyler's head instead, leaving a smoking hole that still glowed red-hot. The emergency was over in seconds. The guards flooded out, capturing the would-be assassin. But Tyler couldn't stop staring at that smoking hole in his wall. 6 inches to the left and he would have been dead. Just gone. Erased. His hands started shaking. His legs felt weak. He slid down the wall to sit on the floor, hugging his knees. Vel was beside him instantly, having pushed through his guards. Tyler. Tyler, look at me. You are safe. They tried to kill me, Tyler whispered. They tried to kill me because I'm your friend. I know. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Vel's voice was thick with emotion. This is my fault. I should have seen this coming. Tyler looked up at him. What happens now? Vel's expression went cold, his eyes blazing with fury that made Tyler's blood run cold. Now I find everyone involved. And I make them pay. The next morning, Tyler sat in his coffee shop staring at the patched hole in the wall. The Imperial engineers had fixed it within hours, but he could still see exactly where it had been. 6 inches. That's how close he'd come to dying. Vel arrived at noon with an entire security battalion. They swept the building, installed new defensive systems, and positioned guards at every entrance. It felt less like a coffee shop and more like a military bunker. "This is insane," Tyler said when Vel finally sat down across from him. "You can't live like this. I can't live like this." "The people responsible will be found and executed," Vel said, his voice carrying that cold, imperial tone Tyler had never heard before. "I have already issued the orders." "No." Tyler's voice was quiet but firm. Vel's head snapped up. "What?" "I said no. You're not executing anyone because of me." Tyler leaned forward, meeting those golden eyes. "Think about it, Vel. Really think. If you start executing nobles for this, what does that prove? That I've made you weak? That humans are making you emotional and irrational? You'll be proving their point. They tried to kill you." Vel's claws dug into the table, leaving deep grooves. "They attacked an innocent person to send me a message. That cannot stand." "You're right, it can't. But responding with violence isn't the answer." Tyler could see Vel struggling, the Emperor warring with the friend. "You told me you came back to be a better leader. Well, better leaders don't repeat the same cycles of violence that started the problems in the first place. Then what would you have me do?" Vel's voice cracked slightly. "How do I protect you? How do I show the galaxy that this will not be tolerated?" Tyler had been thinking about this all night, turning an idea over in his mind. It was crazy, probably impossible, but maybe that's exactly what they needed. "You said these nobles are scared because they don't understand humans, right? They see us as primitive outsiders who are corrupting their precious traditions." "Yes, that is the core of their argument." "Then make them understand." Tyler pulled out his tablet, bringing up the news coverage of the assassination attempt. "You wanted cultural exchange programs? Let's actually do it. Not just some diplomatic program that nobody pays attention to. Something big. Something they can't ignore." "What are you suggesting?" "A summit. Right here. On this station." Tyler's words came faster as the idea took shape. "Bring representatives from all these noble houses, all these species who are scared of change. Make them come here to human space, to this coffee shop. Force them to actually interact with us instead of just reading reports and making assumptions." Vel was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. "That is either brilliant or suicidal. Possibly both." "Story of my life," Tyler said with a weak smile. "But think about it. You can't make people understand through force. You can't legislate away fear. But you can break down barriers by putting people in the same room and making them see each other as actual beings, not just political abstractions. The logistics would be a nightmare. The security concerns alone. You're an emperor with resources I can't even imagine. If anyone can pull this off, it's you." Tyler gestured around his shop. "And this place, it's neutral ground. It's small, casual, non-threatening. People let their guards down over coffee. You did." Vel's expression slowly shifted from doubt to determination. "You would be willing to host potentially hostile representatives in your establishment? After someone just tried to kill you?" "Honestly, I'm terrified. But hiding doesn't fix anything. And maybe, just maybe, if we can get these people to actually talk to us, see us as people instead of political problems, we can change some minds." Vel reached across the table and placed his hand over Tyler's. "You are braver than most warriors I have known. Or dumber. Jury's still out on that one." 3 weeks later, Frontier Station 7 became the center of the galaxy's attention. Imperial engineers had temporarily expanded Tyler's coffee shop using modular additions that blended seamlessly with the original structure. What had been a tiny cafe now had the capacity to hold 200 beings comfortably. Tyler stood behind his counter, watching representatives from dozens of species arrive. There were crystalline beings that looked like walking diamonds, gaseous entities contained in elegant suits, massive insectoid creatures with too many limbs to count, and nobles from ancient houses wearing robes that probably cost more than the entire station. His 2 employees, Danny and Nicole, worked beside him, equally nervous and excited. They'd hired extra help for the event, but Tyler insisted on being at the counter himself. This was his place, his idea. He needed to be present. The atmosphere was tense at first. Noble houses clustered together, speaking in hushed tones and casting suspicious glances at the human colonists who'd been invited. Tyler could practically feel the prejudice radiating from some of them. Then Vel arrived and the room went silent. He didn't wear elaborate robes or a crown. He wore simple formal attire and walked directly to Tyler's counter. "1 coffee, please," Vel said loudly enough for everyone to hear. And whatever my friend recommends for breakfast. It was a small gesture, but the message was clear. The emperor of the Vasher Empire considered this human coffee shop owner his equal, his friend. Not a servant. Not a curiosity. A friend. Tyler served him with slightly shaking hands, and Vel took his usual corner booth. Gradually, other beings approached the counter. Some out of curiosity, some because they were genuinely hungry, and some because refusing the emperor's implicit recommendation seemed unwise. Tyler served them all the same way he served everyone. With genuine interest and respect. He asked about their cultures, their home worlds, their favorite foods. He made terrible jokes that sometimes landed and sometimes fell completely flat due to translation issues. He was just himself, unfiltered and authentic. A group of four-armed Belker merchants struck up a conversation with some human engineers. They discovered a shared passion for spacecraft modification. Within an hour, they were sketching designs on napkins and arguing good-naturedly about engine configurations. A floating jellyfish-like being from the Kelmar Collective bonded with a human artist over color theory. Apparently, their species could see 17 different color spectrums, and the human was fascinated, asking a million questions. But the hardest case was Lady Chirac. She was a crystalline matriarch whose people had lost 3 colony worlds to what she called aggressive expansion by younger races. She sat alone at a table, her faceted body refracting light in sharp, angry patterns. Tyler had been avoiding her, honestly. She radiated hostility. But as the event wore on and he saw her isolation, something in him couldn't just leave her there. He made a fresh pot of coffee, grabbed 2 cups and sat down across from her without asking permission. "I heard about your colonies," Tyler said quietly. "The ones you lost. I'm sorry that happened." Lady Chirac's light patterns flickered in what might have been surprise. "You apologize? Your kind had nothing to do with it." "No, but loss is loss. Someone should acknowledge it." Tyler pushed a cup toward her. "I don't know if your species drinks coffee, but it's here if you want it." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lady Chirac spoke, her voice like wind chimes. 3 billion of my people died when those worlds fell. 3 billion. And the galactic community did nothing. Said it was an internal matter for younger species to resolve among themselves. That's terrible. I can't imagine that kind of loss. Yet your emperor wants us to embrace these younger species. To welcome them as equals. Her light patterns turned sharp and red. How can I do that when their recklessness cost me everything? Tyler thought about it carefully. I don't think Vel wants you to forget or forgive what happened. But maybe, just maybe, he wants to create a galaxy where that kind of thing happens less often. Where species actually talk to each other before conflicts escalate. Where beings see each other as people instead of just threats or resources. Pretty words. But words do not bring back the dead. No, they don't. Nothing does. Tyler met her crystalline gaze. But holding on to anger doesn't bring them back either. It just makes sure their deaths define everything that comes after. Is that what they would have wanted? For you to spend the rest of your existence hating? Lady Chirac was quiet for a long time. Her light patterns cycled through colors Tyler couldn't name. Finally, she reached out and touched the coffee cup with one crystalline finger. Perhaps not. Perhaps they would want me to ensure their deaths meant something. That they led to a better galaxy. Then help build that galaxy. Teach these younger species the lessons your people learned. Be part of the solution instead of just mourning the problem. They talked for another hour. Tyler didn't try to fix everything or convince her to completely change her views. He just listened, really listened, to her pain and her fears. By the end, Lady Chirac's light patterns had softened to gentle blues and greens. The summit lasted 3 days. Not everything was resolved. Centuries of prejudice and fear couldn't be erased over coffee and conversation. But something shifted. Beings who arrived as hostile strangers left with communication channels opened. Cultural exchange programs were established with genuine support from former opponents. Most importantly, humanity's place in the galactic community was secured, not through military strength or economic power, but through the simple act of treating everyone with dignity and respect. On the final day, Vel made one last offer. The position of human ambassador to the Galactic Council is yours, Tyler, if you want it. You have more than proven your capability. Tyler looked around his expanded coffee shop, at the dozens of species still mingling and talking. He thought about it seriously this time. It was tempting. It would be important work. "No," he said finally. "But I have a counteroffer. I'll train other humans for diplomatic work. Help them understand what I've learned. And this place, it stays open as neutral ground. Somewhere anyone can come to just talk without all the formal political nonsense. Sometimes the galaxy's biggest problems get solved over coffee, not in council chambers. Vel's smile was warm and genuine. I cannot argue with that logic. The coffee shop became something unique in the galaxy. A place where an emperor and a barista were just friends. Where species that had been enemies for generations learned to see each other as people. Where the future was built one conversation at a time. Tyler stood behind his counter months later, serving an impossible mix of customers. A Belker trader argued good-naturedly with a human pilot. Lady Chirac sat with a group of younger species, teaching them about ancient history. And in the corner booth, Vel sat with his usual coffee, watching everything with those golden eyes that no longer looked quite so sad. Tyler walked over with a fresh pot. You know you're an emperor, right? You could literally have the finest coffee in the galaxy delivered to you. True, Vel said, accepting the refill. But the finest coffee in the galaxy would not come with the company of my best friend. Tyler grinned. You're getting sentimental in your old age. Perhaps. Or perhaps I have simply learned what truly matters. Outside the window, ships from 1,000 worlds came and went. The galaxy kept spinning, full of problems and conflicts that would never fully disappear. But in this one small coffee shop, beings of every species found common ground. And it all started because one human saw a lonely stranger and offered him kindness. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the galaxy.